Alright, update on GMT. So, as you can see on the daily, we are taking a nosedive today. We have had a correction of 8%, and as of the time of recording this, you can see we are currently taking out and moving below the previous all-time high. So, let's talk about what I see going on in the charts today. Before we do jump into the technical analysis, I am going to talk about some bullish short-term news that I do see for GMT / the STEPN app. And then I'm going to be talking about one worrying signal that I see in the tokenomics, at least I believe it to be worrying, and then we can go on and talk about the technical analysis as always. So jumping on with the news, if we start off with the STEPN Twitter, you can see they have currently got over 500,000 downloads on their STEPN app. If you're confused, thinking what does this app have to do with GMT, if you come over to CoinMarketCap, you can see GMT is actually STEPN, and this Web3 app that you can download on your phone called STEPN is basically this Web3 game where you buy an NFT of a sneaker priced in Solana, and then you're supposedly meant to upgrade your shoes and go on runs, and you earn money as you move. They call it a move to earn NFT mobile game. That is basically how it works. I imagine there's a lot of people who are invested in GMT because they saw price go up and they have no idea about the app. So I'm just talking about what we see here. This is good for the general adoption as they've got over 500,000 users. Now, if we come down, you can also see they've recently or supposedly partnered with ASICS. This is a huge sneaker brand. Not one of the biggest ones, but nonetheless, this is definitely something good to be seen. Their brand is moving in positive ways. One more bullish thing. Basically, if you go on their Twitter, you can constantly see they are always doing these GMT giveaways with Binance, which in my opinion, I think is a great thing. If you scroll through their Twitter, you can just see, I think every 10 posts or so, there's like a Binance giveaway. I mean, this was the Binance coming soon to the NFT marketplace. But nonetheless, I do see general adoption going on for this project. We can also look at their users in the past 30 minutes on this screenshot that they published. And you can see they've got tons and tons of people using this app. Now, I don't know why 0.3% of people are using tablets. If you have the STEPN app downloaded and you plan on going on a run and you're using like a tablet, like an iPad Max or something, then I don't know, you're just built different in my opinion. I don't know how someone can go for a run, like maybe like a half an hour, 1 hour run. I think you start off at 15 minutes and then you have to upgrade your shoe. But even in theory, I mean, running with an iPad in your hands for 15 minutes just sounds very barbaric to me. So if you are one of those people, then, you know, so be it. I guess you're just built different to me. That is all I've got for the news today. Let's jump into the tokenomics. So if you want to check these out, come over to CoinMarketCap. They're probably on CoinGecko. I just prefer using CoinMarketCap. You can see GMT has really been having a rally in the past couple of months. We have made it up to rank 56. The market cap is currently just under 1.9 billion, but the number one warning sign that I kind of see in this project is the market cap is fairly high for what it is. That is more of a long-term, you know, nitpick rather than something to worry about in the short term, because I do think when these euphoric rallies can happen, they'll keep going up and up and up and up and up until they plunge all the way back down to their respective value. Now, if we look at the red flag, their fully diluted market cap is, you know, obviously 10 times the amount of the market cap. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what market cap and fully diluted market cap is, the market cap is simply the existing price times the existing supply. That is how you get the market cap. Is simply the price times the existing supply. Now, fully diluted market cap is the current price times the total supply. And as you can see, the total supply of STEPN GMT is 10 times larger than the current circulating supply. What does this mean if you're a short-term investor? Probably nothing. What does this mean if you're a mid to long-term investor? It means that, you know, 90% of the supply is going to be dropped on your head at some point. And considering how the market cap has already had such a lengthy run up, what that means is when they're paying rewards in GMT, like for example, if you use the app for the actual purpose of the app instead of just investing in the project, then you're getting paid in GMT, which they are producing with inflation by printing more rewards. What that means is that value is being printed out of nowhere, and such, for the price to maintain its value, or rather its price, at $3.15, it means someone else is going to have to come in and buy the equivalent amount to increase the market cap so you can have your profits in GMT. That is really just something to think about if you are a long-term investor. If you're like me and you see GMT as really just a short-term investment, then I really wouldn't consider this a worrying sign. But for example, you know, I believe it's 19 out of 21 million Bitcoin has already been mined. Most of the supply of Bitcoin is already out, and then you can see the opposite with a lot of these altcoins, where barely any of the supply is out, and if at any point they wanted to expand their business, you could see a large amount of inflation in the GMT supply. That is just something to take into account. I imagine most of it will be used in rewards. Don't throw rocks through my window. I am just reviewing the data that we have on CoinMarketCap here. So as promised, let's jump right into the technical analysis. Now, looking at this as a whole on the chart, it doesn't necessarily look too bad. I do think corrections and breathers are needed in the crypto market. Let's start off from what's been going on in the past couple of days. You can see we formed this head and shoulders pattern, and if we take the breakdown target, if you're drawing it from the wick, we haven't reached it, but I believe if you're drawing it to the candle body close, you can see from the breakdown target, if I put it in the right place, yeah, it's in the right place. This breakdown subsequently said, you know, we were coming down to $2.95. If you don't know, this is a head and shoulders pattern. You can see we've got a shoulder here, a head, and another shoulder. This is a bearish pattern with a price target predicting a move down to $2.95. The interesting thing is we've already come down to $2.97. So in my opinion, the price target has been pretty much hit. I really wouldn't argue over, you know, GMT filling the price target but needing to come down another 0.6%. In my opinion, the target's filled, so there is no more need to talk about this head and shoulders that we do have playing out. Nonetheless, this support flipped into resistance. You can see this was support, this was support, this was resistance, and now it is resistance again. We're struggling to get back above this resistance line. This is a very important level now. While the head and shoulders does not matter anymore, this is an area of resistance or support flipped as resistance that we do need to get back above in the short term if you do want to see GMT go on another rally. Now, if we look at the momentum indicators, I would like to point out that the bullish move to the upside has already topped out, but we are halfway down to resetting the momentum to its heartline. So what does that mean? It means if we do see continuation to the downside, I extrapolated this previously. I really don't think we went down that far. From when we had one bar left on dark green, we were approximately right here on the 3rd of April. And as you can see, from where we moved down into the dark red region into the 4th of April, we had a correction that was approximately 18%, but technically it was 22%. It was a 22% drop from when this fired, but basing this on the squeeze bomb targets from when the squeeze bomb said we topped out was an 18%. I'm sure you're more interested to know how much it went down after this flipped. So if you're interested in that, we had a 22% move to the downside once we did flip dark red. And I'm not even gonna, you know, compare it to these times, because as I can tell, we've had two huge euphoric peaks so far for GMT, and both of them have come down and reset. The first time this happened, we had a big move to the downside. Like I said, we had a 22% move to the downside after we did have that move. But we came down into the bottom of the EMA ribbons, and I am going to get into the EMA ribbons in just a moment because I do think they are the most important thing to talk about. Now, I really don't think this is going to happen per se, but you could see if we did have that 22% drop from before, we could be coming down to approximately $2.50. I imagine that would be a strong psychological level as well. Another key area which I consider a point of control. Now, let me talk about why I believe it's a point of control before we get into it. Now, you've got a 1.618 Fibonacci retracement level down here. We get that from drawing this fib from this low to this high. That is number one. We've got a rejection point here. We've got a rejection point here. We've got a rejection point here. We've got a support zone here, and we have a 618 Fibonacci here. If we remove all of those things on the chart and draw a horizontal line through that data, you can see, in my opinion, we have a huge point of control. I am going to mark this blue so you don't get it confused as support or resistance. In my opinion, this is obviously going to be a strong area of support at the $2.70 region. We have a lot of volume traders around here. Previously, this was a zone where, you know, the bears would supply GMT to buyers and then push the price down. You know, you can see the bears supplying GMT here, supplying GMT here. There's obviously a wall of sellers willing to sell GMT at this price, and then we finally got back above it. So I do imagine this is going to be a super important point of control. Not only does it perfectly line up with the 618 fib, but it perfectly lines up with the 1.618 Fibonacci. And it lines up that way because drawing your fib from low to high, we had an impulse to the 1.618, and drawing your breakout from all-time high to 1.618, you have a 1.618 Fibonacci retracement level down at the 0.618 Fibonacci level. There's a lot of confluence around this region. I love how Fibonacci's work. They are so intricate. I use Fibonacci trading, you know, probably more than anything else on my channel. It is my bread and butter. This is what I like to do. Now, if we talk about what's going on in the higher time frames, looking at the daily, we haven't necessarily had a big nosedive like this before. The only other time that's comparable to this, in my opinion, we had a pullback. I want to get the exact price target because I want to be super accurate with the target that I do give you. So from the top here, we had a move down of 31%, almost 32%. So if we extrapolate that, draw it to the high up here, a 32% drop would basically put us right back down at this point of control. It's a little bit over, like I'm cherry picking a bit. It would actually take us down to 261, but a 30% drop, you know, would bring us down to this 270 region, which is very interesting. In the higher time frames, we are still seeing bullish momentum step in terms of the squeeze mom, which is great. We haven't been able to really trade based on the daily squeeze mom because it takes a while to load in, and this is a fairly new chart to Binance. So if we look at the daily, you know, for the past week we are exponentially increasing. I cannot panic at all on GMT while this is green. If this turns red, or dark green rather, indicative that the bulls are losing control, that is a completely different story. But as of the time of recording this, we are still in a very, very bullish uptrend. If we come down to the lower time frames, this is the most important thing that I want to talk about, other than my next price target. So I still do have my eyes up here at $4.95. This is the next 2.618 Fibonacci region. However, I would like to see us hop back above the previous all-time high at $3.12. Until we do that, we could have a little bit of chop action. And let me point you towards my worst case scenario. So if we look at the data traded since the 4-hourly EMA came into fruition, we're on the 4-hourly chart here. I want to run through what we've seen with these 4-hourly EMAs. So you can see we first had the 4-hourly EMA come in at 16 cents. And also I'm going to be talking about this whole EMA ribbon, so all the way down to the long-term moving average at the bottom of this EMA as well. You can see we first came back, back tested it, had an impulse, came back in, back tested the 4-hourly EMA ribbons, back tested the 4-hour, back tested the 4-hour, huge rally. We back tested the 4-hour, we fell through it a couple of times, but bear in mind, in this instance, we fell through it for 4, 8, and then within the 12th hour we were up. In this instance, when we fell below the long-term moving average, we actually chopped around for approximately 20 bars worth of data, which is 3 days and 8 hours on the 4-hourly time frame. You can then see we had an 8-hour fake out below the 4-hourly EMA ribbons, but what I'm really pointing out to you right now is these EMA ribbons have been a huge area of support. Not the daily, we really haven't got all the data loaded on the daily yet. Nonetheless, what has loaded in from the short-term moving average, the long-term moving average hasn't loaded in yet. As you can imagine, in the name, it is a longer-term moving average. It will be slower to move up and down, and it will take longer to come in because it takes in more data points. However, the short-term moving average, you can see, loads in a lot quicker. Then the next EMA down, the 21 loads in quicker, and then the 30, then the 35, then the 40. I'm not going to run through them all, but nonetheless, you can see daily EMAs been a strong area of support. 4-hourly EMAs, we have always historically found our bottom just a couple of percent beneath the 4-hourly EMAs. So what are we doing right now on the 4-hour? We're having a pullback into the EMA ribbons. If I was to draw a worst case scenario based on what previously happened, I would say your worst case scenario, obviously not financial advice, would be a pullback to not only your point of control, which is your 618, all of these rejection points, your support down here, or rather your rejection point here, rejection, support, 618 and 1.618 fib. This is the point of control in my opinion. This is the most key and vital place to flip as support. And as I said before, you can see when we do have these corrections, we tank below the 4-hour EMA and quickly find a bottom. This point of control is just a few percent below the long-term moving average on the 4-hourly EMA. In fact, it's a 5% drop. So, worst case scenario, for me to remain bullish on GMT, I need to see this level hold. If this level holds, then I do not panic, I don't worry, I don't sell. However, if this level does close, if we do move down here and we not only put a 4-hourly close below the point of control, but we put a daily close below the point of control, that is approximately at $2.70, then I would have to imagine that I would probably be taking profits at that point. And bear in mind, I started covering this when it was down here. It was either at 27 or 30 cent, or maybe it was 45 or 40 down here. We got in a long time ago. Let's be conservative and say it was 40 cent. I was covering this on my channel a very long time ago. You know, if I have to take profits on a breakdown and I have to walk away with, you know, 567% profit, then, you know, boo-hoo. Like, obviously this is just my trading plan, but we haven't historically seen a big move below the EMA ribbons before. In fact, if we look at the absolute most that we moved below these EMA ribbons, it was right here. We had a 7% move below them, but in terms of the candle body close, it was only a 5% move, and we quickly reversed. I don't know why that's so hard to say, but we've already had this big correction. We've already had the breakdown of the head and shoulders. We've already filled the target, and we're already back in these EMA ribbons, which the long-term moving average is going to start to move up, and the short-term moving average is now going to start to converge down. We are going to be building momentum and consolidating, in my opinion, for the next couple of hours before we do have a big move either to the upside or the downside. In my opinion, the bottom for GMT has to be at $2.70. And, you know, we could end up coming down to these closes down here at 265. We could come to the psychological level of 250. But for me, personally, I walk out of my trade with a 5.6x return if we do close a daily candle below $2.70. Now, let me hammer that in. A daily candle. It does not matter about a wick. It does not matter if we break down and go like this, come down to 250, and then push back up and we close a daily back above here. That is not what would concern me. If we broke down, however, closed a daily candle, back tested it, and then moved down again, I would be out. So that is what I need to see for GMT. I imagine the bottom is already very close to being in. If we look at GMT on the money flow indicator, we've recently had a strong bottom at 40, and so far we've only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bottoms, and 1, 2, and potentially 3 of them have been around this region. If you don't want to include this data point, as we do not yet know if we're going up or down, you can consider these 4 data points where we previously bottomed on the money flow indicators. So in my opinion, we have about a 50% chance of bottoming where we are right now. If we do head much lower, like I said, we've got these bottoms at 24 and 23, which in my opinion would mean that we would not be going below the point of control. That is what I'm looking for right now for GMT. I still think we're exceptionally bullish. We're still in these 4-hourly EMA ribbons. Higher time frames categorically say that the bulls are in control. We're seeing good news on adoption. However, like I said, a little bit shaky whether you want to consider this like the best long-term project to invest in. I would personally say there's a lot of other cryptos that I'd prefer to invest in for the long term over GMT. However, in the short term, GMT and a few others are taking the cake right now. I think they are going to keep going up and up and up until they do have a harsh top. And from what I can see, we have not seen that yet. We are chilling around, and as long as we don't break below the point of control, I have absolutely no worries. So in the next couple of hours, in the next day or so, sure, we could have a move down to $2.84, the long-term moving average. We could even have a move down to $2.70. But I am personally not banking on a move down whatsoever. We're already having this move to the downside. We're already resetting the squeeze mom. If we are going to have a further flush out to the downside, so be it. 270 needs to hold, in my opinion. That is all I see. In the short term, I would love to see a pump back above this rejection point at $3.27. If we do, and we see an increase in momentum, my next price target would be up here at $4.95. That is all I see for GMT today. Was a little bit of a longer video than normal, however, there was a lot to go through. That is honestly all I see. Best of luck if you're in it. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, comment, share it with your friends. That's all I've got for you. Not financial advice. Cowboy out. Peace.